This video is going to be discussing control theory. A brief overview. If we know what causes conformity, we know what causes deviance. That's the basis of this theory. This theory also adheres to some Freudian ideas. We naturally want to commit deviant acts, and we're going to do that unless there's proper control. Hershey, Gottfredson, and Tittle present the ideas of social bond, self-control, and control balance. Sykes and Matza discuss neutralization and drift. Braithwaite presents reintegrative shaming. And then we're also going to discuss the deterrence doctrine. Hershey and the four bonds. Travis Hershey believes that most of us, just like animals, come pre-programmed to commit deviant acts, but many of us don't actually commit them. Strong bonds to society are what keep us from committing deviant acts or being deviants, and vice versa. If you have weak bonds to society, you're going to be more likely to be deviant or commit deviant acts. There are four ways presented to us in which we bond to society. The first is going to be attachment. We form meaningful attachments to our parents and peers, and we enjoy and work hard in institutions like school. The second is going to be commitment. We spend our time adhering to conventional actions such as school, work, and others. Involvement. We spend so much time involved in our conventional activities listed above that we don't have the time to commit or even think about committing deviant acts. And finally, belief. We believe that social rules are morally valid and follow the rules of our society. This can be represented by trusting in and respecting the police and having faith in our legal system. Strong bonds with these four factors are what lead to conformity. Gottfredson and Tittle add on to this theory. Michael Gottfredson added on with these ideas. Weak self-control is a better way for us to explain deviance. Those who have weak self-control are more impulsive and thus are more likely to commit deviant acts. This stems from a lack of proper socialization. This can be caused, by parents failing to properly discipline their children and to fail to properly explain the norms and rules of our society. Charles Tittle added these ideas. The lack of control balance is what causes deviance. People who lack control balance are often in either a control surplus, which is where we exert more control over others than ourselves, or control deficit, where others exert more control over us than we exert over them. These people are likely to engage in deviant acts and will commit any type of deviant act from robbery to homicide to sexual abuse. Sykes and Matza. Gresham Sykes and David Matza introduced the techniques of neutralization that will help youth rationalize effects that come with violating the norms. The first one is going to be denial of responsibility, like they made me do it. The second is going to be denial of the victim, like they deserved it, they earned it. The third is going to be denial of injury. They weren't really hurt, they have insurance, things like that. The fourth is going to be condemnation of the condemners. So they're going to say that the police or whoever has no right to blame them because they themselves are corrupt. And then next we're going to appeal to a higher authority, appealing to those who encourage us to commit these acts. And then they also introduce the idea that most youth are not lifelong criminals. They conform to societal norms for a large portion of their lives. And this is identified as the drift. And this is the state of being able to move in and out of crime with ease or relatively freely. Braithwaite. John Braithwaite discusses how society controls us through shaming. Shaming is meant to make the wrongdoer feel guilt and remorse for the acts they have committed, and he identifies two types of shaming. The first is going to be disintegrative shaming, and this is when we punish the person in a way that seeks to stigmatize them and essentially banish them from our conventional society. This type of shaming is going to be present in societies where individualism is much stronger than social relationships, such as places as the United States. Reintegrative shaming seeks to make the person understand and feel the guilt that they should, while also being more understanding and forgiving. and this more encourages them to move back into society and not commit any further acts. This is a type of punishment that we see a lot administered to children by parents, and it's more common in societies that have strong social relationships, such as Japan. Braithwaite believes that the United States would be able to reduce crime rates if we introduced more integrative shaming into how we punish criminals. The deterrence doctrine. The ideas presented here are that humans weigh the costs and benefits of committing a crime, and if one outweighs the other, it will influence them to commit or not. So if the costs are greater than the benefits, they're not going to commit, and if the benefits are greater than the costs, they probably will. The costs here are legal punishment, and there are 3 ways punishment is carried out. First is the severity of the punishment. The more severe the punishment is, the less likely the person is to commit the crime. Certainty of punishment. The more certain you are that you will be punished, the less likely you are to commit the crime. And finally, we have the swiftness of punishment. The swifter the punishment is carried out, the less likely the crime is to occur. So if in one city robbers are being brought in just a few days, it's going to really deter that more than in a city where robbers are being caught in a much longer period of time. These modes of punishment are thought to achieve the 2 kinds of deterrence. General deterrence, which seeks to deter the general public from committing these crimes, and then specific deterrence, which seeks to deter the individual criminal from committing the crime. There are several critiques of the theory. The first is that deviance is what causes people to have weaker social bonds and self-control, not the other way around. The second is that some of these studies that are used as evidence suggest that deviance is what causes deviance when we evaluate their indicators of weak self-control, such as drug use, prostitution, things of that nature. The third is that reintegrative shaming is less likely to work on seasoned criminals and repeat offenders than it is first-time or minor criminals. So if you have, murdered somebody or committed several different higher-up crimes, reintegrative shaming isn't going to be as likely to work on you because that's not really the mindset that you have. You don't necessarily want to be reintegrated into the society. And then finally, we have the deterrence doctrine. The critique on this is that the doctrine is popular because it upholds American societal norms of law enforcement and punishment, not because it was correct in what it stated. And then these are going to be the resources. Once again, just the textbook.